All right, returning back here, we've got our actions. As a recap, if for those just joining us here, right, we went over the effects and we made our first combo. So, right, we have a trail, we have some VFX there, and we have a left click and a right click. We have no interactions because we haven't set up our hitboxes yet. So let's go ahead and do that now. All right, so I think for here, we messed around a lot with the hitboxes. Showed you how to assign hitboxes. Um, we made a couple of hitboxes. We made even a hitbox group there, so we could hit our characters. We did some special effects, looked at some other effects issues there. I think this is good for now. Next time, we'll probably look more at the reaction characters and then how to set up particular reactions. It's very similar to how to set up actions, but still we'll want to go over that. But that'll be in the next one. Okay, see ya. Okay, now that we got the basics here with the hitboxes, the effects, the actions, let's do the new input system. So how I use that in the scene. So you need the new input add-on for this. So what I have in the scene is one is the UI. So I just took that from the demo scene from the add-on for new input. Same thing here, right? Um, and then what I do to my character is I go to the player character CC. My input action map, I could keep that same, but my input wrapper, I'm now going to want to do player one new Unity input. Yeah. So we keep that one the same, the action map. We change the wrapper to player one new Unity input. And then, because it's the new Unity input, which I'm not a big fan of, but whatever, here it is. You have a player input thing to turn on, and then we need the player input receiver. So the receiver here, there you go. So the player input will talk to the receiver. So what we need here is make sure that your move and your jump and your fire 1 and fire 2 are all set up. So these are set up for on tap actions and then move input. This right here is just taken straight from the demo scene. And how to hook up the new player, new input, there's lots of tutorials on that. But that's all it's using here. So we have that, and then we make sure the joystick starter assets input. Yep, that's right. It's linked up to our controller, so just make sure this thing is linked up to your action character, I mean. And this is player, I just put 0. So it's just player number 0. Or player 1, whatever. And then stop it. Maybe I don't have an event system in the scene here. No, I got one. So what was different? So the hitboxes are just here, active hitboxes. You have hit givers and hit takers. Takers, so this is what receives damage, kind of like your hitbox, and then this is your damage box, because you're giving a hit, you're giving damage. So let's take a look at this. Let's add one of these new ones in here for our player. So what we want to do is add a hitbox. So go to hitboxes, and we get this empty thing here. If yours is populated, go ahead and empty it. I'll show you how to do it. We hit plus, and then what it needs is a name. This is going to be the name of that hitbox, and then a collider. So let's go ahead and make one. So we're going to make one for his right hand. Yeah. So just open it up. And in this particular model, I'm looking for, because I want it to follow the right hand. So I'm looking for the hand, hand R. And then in this particular case, I'm going to want the IK handgun, at least in this model, to give you a nice one where you could put attachments to it. So here what I like to do is then make a game object, a create empty child, and I could call it something. I'm in right hand if we want. You can even say right hand hitbox to make that more clear. And then over here we need a collider of any type. So it could be a box collider, that's fine. Right, and then we have that box collider is a thing. But let's actually go for a capsule collider just for now. Okay, so now we got a capsule collider. It looks a little awkward. That's because its direction, right? We have this direction, which is fine because it's the same direction as this guy's forearm, but it's a little too big, huh? So you just lower down the radius. You see it squeezes it out a bit. And then we kind of just make it how we want it. So we can make it as realistic as we want, or we can make it nice and stylized. So here I'm going to do that kind of hitbox. And then on the Y, I can move that to center it back. And ooh, we're getting there, sure. And then we just kind of adjust it how we want it. Yeah, we could do something like that. Okay, so we have our right hand hitbox. So let's go back up to our player here, the action character. Hit givers, hitboxes. So we need a collider in there, right? So let's just throw that in there. And we also need a name. So we could just call it right hand. This is the name we're going to be using, throughout the system. So when you turn on hitboxes, so use something descriptive and something you're going to remember. I'll just do right hand. Yeah, so we have that. I mean, that's it. But now we're just going to have to enable it. We could enable it at the beginning, actually. If we go to default hitboxes, there's right hand. We can make right hand default. There you go. So what that's going to do now is our right hand hitbox is always going to be on. So with just that, since it's always on, we can enter play mode, and now we could already interact with the other characters in the demo scene. So I can go up and I use my left hand. See, so I'm hitting them just fine. That trail from last time is kind of didn't save it, so let's get that down there. So that's all we needed to do is just activate the hitbox. And how is that working? Well, I mean, so it's always on. So as long as it hits these other guys. And what it's doing, yeah, you see, if I'm just standing still, it hits them too. So it's good for testing, but eventually we want to fix that. And what's that's doing, if we go over to our placeholders, a placeholder enemy here, they have their own hitboxes. And they have hit takers already assembled, assigned there, so just called it hips. Basically, that's their hurt box. So if we take a look at one of these guys, we see they get this awkward kind of hitbox. So I just do that so it's easier to hit, to make connections. But they've already got hitboxes set up, and that's how come we can interact with them. Okay, so let's get this right hand. Let's go back to default. Let's remove it from default because we don't want it always to be on. We just want it to be on when we're doing our first combo, or sword weak that we called it. And I know we don't have a sword in our hand, but you can imagine. So let's go ahead and do that then. Assign this to sword weak. So there's multiple ways to assign this to sword weak. So here, let's show you the action way. We could just open our action character editor, because then we go to sword weak and edit that bad boy. And if you remember from before, we have hitbox options. And we have two of them, hit givers and hit takers. So we could, like, in this case, we're going to want to turn on damage box hit giver, and we're going to want to turn on right hand. And then it asks, okay, what's the normalized percent that we'll turn it on and off on? Well, for now, we'll just do, just do something like that and move the window out of the way. And we'll see if that looks okay. So that's one way where you could just assign it right there. I guess I gotta hit them. Yeah, and now if you see, if I walk into them, it's not on right now, so it's not activating them. Activating the hitbox, it's only doing it when I attack. And let us remove this Garbo for now, because I forgot to change. I'm gonna have to change that in a bit. There we go. Now maybe you're like, okay, I want something a little bit more precise than just a guess. So let's exit play mode here. Let's actually go to effects character. Let's make this trail a little lower so we can see things. Okay. So how can we do more precise than just these normalized percentages here? Well, we can consult the action preview. So you go in here and sword weak, because sword weak, we could add it. Switch this over to combo. And, oh, and if we see, we could do hitbox data. And then it tells, this one's not so great. I gotta figure a better way to do that. So it tells us when the hitboxes are good and activated when they reach there. They expect a timeline, so when they're all crunched here at the end of the timeline, that's not going to work out. So we're going to have to actually, for this particular one, consult the other way, which is through animation events. So animation events, this is just a Unity thing. And so to find them, you actually, I'm going to go to Sword Week here just so I can go to the animation. Yeah, I could go through it, through the actions as well, but here, Sword Week, go to the FBX file here. And we have the animation, right? Yeah. So what we could do is this thing called events. So these we'll call events. So what is built into the system is you could do enable hit giver and disable hit giver. So I can go like right about here, hit plus, enable hit giver, and then it asks you, okay, what's the name of it? Well, it's right hand. And let's make sure I spell that right. So that is something you're going to need to double check. And that's why you want to do stuff that you're going to remember. And let's turn it off right there. So I'll hit plus again. Disable hit giver and right hand. Okay, so then I apply that. And that's going to work because now that talks through the animation scripts. So I clicked on the model here of my action character. You have the animation event script here. This is what it talks through. You could subscribe to some things here if you like for additional functionality, but that's why it's working. It's calling into the script here. Now, what we're going to want to do, because we had it on, actually, right, we had the sword recon for the hitbox for this window. So we're going to want to turn that off now, otherwise we're going to have like doubles. So we'll close that. So depending on game, you might be fine just doing it, getting the percentages there. And here you might want to link it to animations. There's pros and cons for both. So depending on your game, you're going to want to choose what's best for your workflow. All right, and now here, so now it's going to be a little bit more precise. But there we go. So now it's only turning on at the particular time I marked inside the animation event. Okay, so that's the basics there of the hitboxes. So what we did there is we made a right hand hitbox hit giver, which then is hitting the other ones. And we turned it on and off through the action, either through the action asset itself using the hitbox option, or either through the animation events, which is through the FBX file by using enable hit giver or enable hit taker. Now what I've done here is I've loaded up the demo scene so you could see just kind of what hitboxes I'm using for the different actions. So it's the same thing. I have my character here, hit givers, hitboxes, and I've enabled them here. So we see there's one for the sword, and that's all it is for my sword attacks here. And so if you take a look at it, my hitbox of the sword is actually pretty generous. We have something called Sky Sword. So Sky Sword, let's Click that here. You see it's super large. So that's the hitbox that it turns on when it does the huge effect. Combo number 4 from the sky. Why I call it sky sword. I have other ones like this frontal cone. So this one right gets turned on and anything that's in front of me that I want it to hit them. I also have a sphere. AoE sphere. Where are you, buddy? Well, maybe I actually removed that, but that one was just a sphere around the character. So for any AoE effects. And then frontal code capsule, sorry. Oh, here they are. They're these children here. So they actually make up this thing. Yeah. So they're just Unity hitboxes here, colliders, and then just enabling them and disabling them based on the animations, and that's it. And they are hitting the characters, either reaction character or the placeholders, because they have hitboxes on them. So if I unlock this, I go to their hit takers. You see, so they've got this thing right here, and that's what's registering the hit. So in this case, right, we have this body L, this thing right here, so that would be their hitbox. The other things you saw in there would be more of their hit givers, right? You got all these other boxes so they can give with their left leg, left hand, right hand, shoulder. That's going to be, which hitboxes you want for your characters. That's going to be dependent on your game. You might need a lot. You might need a lot more than I got here. Maybe you just need a couple. In any case, the system is there for you and it'll work. All right, if you also have action camera in the scene, if we want to use the UI, we're gonna have to turn our lock mode to none, or confined. I'll just switch it to none. You don't want it locked. If you have an older version there, just turn off action camera for now or update, because there's a line in start which automatically locks it, and that won't work with UI stuff, obviously. But in any case, yeah, we change that. Now if we hit play, we got all of our setup there. What we'll do is now this will move us around. No problem. And then this will do that. And then so this and then this does the combo. So now you have these hooked up. The plus and the minus aren't hooked up. Well, I guess they are. I must have done that earlier. But what I've done to these, plus and minus, and actually, there you go. And it's clicking here. I mean, obviously in a mobile it wouldn't be working like that, and it's doing that because on the placeholders, I'm calling into this script right here on the plus and minus. So it's just adding 10 more and minusing 10 more. And that's just on these additional buttons that I had made. So add, remove, and then just hook them up like you would any other buttons here, any other uni buttons. And how is this panel working here? Well, remember this is talking to our action character, which has our player input and player input receiver all working. Remember that we have player one new Unity input in here. So that is the input wrapper, which just kind of points to the asset there, player one starter assets. The player one starter assets then, is right here in this player thing that Unity provides us. Yeah, so the player one assets, you can edit that any time if you like. Here, this is from the demo from the new player one. So why it's working is because fire one click, it's using that name. So if we look at our the common and action character common data, and we go to input mats and player one. So it's just fire one click is named exactly what this is named. So when those two names are the same, it'll just work then, because then it auto registers these button presses for that. Um, so yeah, so as you see here, fire one click, and then I just made this left mouse button, which is just like that is fire one on the legacy input, right? That's what that is, just the left mouse button. Right now I have both inputs on in the project, which is why both work when I go ahead and then click. And well, you saw that in the scene. In yours, you'll probably have one or the other or rewired or whatever. Um, yeah, so I think, let's see, that's the input connected to the UI using this script here. And yeah, input we're switching here is the input wrapper, and then we turn these two things on, player input and player input receiver. A player input receiver is an action character script, but you need the add-on. Otherwise, you just write your own receiver. If you're familiar with how the yeah, how the new input system works. So let's revert this and revert this. Oh, that one I didn't want to revert. I just put it back. Okay, let's continue on here and make just new hitboxes on our character. So let's see. What do we need for his other hand? His other attack? Is it also a right hand? I think it is. So I just do this and then just go ahead and do that, and I could see. Yeah, it's his right hand again. So no biggie. Let's go ahead and turn on the right hand. So to do that, probably I'm going to use animation events again. Go to this FBX. In the FBX, come down to events. Okay, and I go ahead and scrub till I find where I want to turn it on. Oh, right there, it looks good. Enable hit giver and right hand. So this is case sensitive. Enable hit giver there, I do believe. So I do believe you'll have to do that. Capitalize the E, H, and the G. And same with disable. I never tried it otherwise, but I think that's how these things work. Disable. And then right hand. Okay, so now our second thing should be working. And here, if we go to action character controller, maybe I don't want to keep trying to combo to check out how the hitboxes work and everything. So this is force action, the FOW force action. So I get a bunch of FOW scripts. They're kind of like testing scripts, debugging scripts. Um, just so if you're into code, you could examine it to see how I do it. So then you could like call the actions at any time. But sword strong. So here you can put the name of the action in that, turn that script on, and now you have a key F5. So now what I could do, oh no, well, one Unity crashed. Be right back. Okay, uh, back here, so the file script. Okay, I gotta turn it back on. So sword strong, and it's gonna be F5. So let's go ahead. So what I was trying to demonstrate there is now I don't have to do that whole combo every time. I can just go ahead and what's going on now? Because it crashed. Okay, hold on. Be right back. All right. Stupid ass new input system. Anyways, it's because this new input system is on, not that. So crashing it. I'm not even using new input system. Whatever. Okay, let's try it again. Hopefully new input doesn't crash me again. All right, good to go. So now I can hit F5 and he goes straight to that combo one, right? So I could check it out here. All right. So there you go. So it's working. And I don't have to do the whole combo thing. So that's nice. Here, I kind of need a longer hitbox, at least using that FX, because it looks like sometimes I should be able to hit them. but my hitbox doesn't reach because it's just on the hand, right? Um, so that's where you probably have a more generous hitbox, but right hand's working there. So how do we make it? Let's group one into we'll group some hitboxes together so I can show you that. So a right hand is great. Okay, let's just make let's see, we got right hand, and now we can make another one. Oh, we could just click on that to get that open there. There we go. So we got this right hand, and it's good for some, and then others, maybe we want it to be a longer one. So we can extend that actually. What we just do, game object, create empty child. We'll just call it right hand. I don't know. Maybe I would just make a separate hitbox actually, like this. So this is hitbox small, and this could be hitbox large because it doesn't matter. Um, these are turned on and off at runtime, so you could have a whole bunch of these guys on here, but they're turned off, so it's not like a performance problem. So don't worry about that. So here we have this, the large one, so just make it larger. Right, give it nice and generous here. So that's my hitbox large. Let's go register that here into our hit givers, hitboxes. So this is right hand. Don't really want to rename that, so we'll just call this one right hand large. All right, now we just put the right hand large into there. Okay. So we're going to use large one now. So to do that, we go back to the animation events here, because that's what we were using. So now you see why maybe you would use the actions while you're prototyping, because then it's a lot easier to open the action and then just change the timestamp than it is having to keep coming back to this FBX file, at least in the prototyping stages. This right here, to keep iterating on it, is quite annoying. So anyways, now large, right hand large, and then the same thing here. We're going to turn that one and turn that one off. If you get to turn it off, the hitbox will stay on for the duration of the action, but there's a failsafe at the end that it'll turn it off at the end of the action. Obviously you don't want that, but that is taken into account. Okay, so now I could test, right? Got my hitbox large. I could just see now if that's a little better of a hitbox thing, right? So just come over here, just hit F5 so I can go straight to it. All right. All right, so that seems to work a little better. Sometimes it's missing it, so it looks like I should probably give it a little bit more be a little bit more generous with that. So no biggie. I'll just come here, get over to it, and let's see. Let's make the radius. Turn that back off so we don't actually the height. Okay. So and when I change these things, I'm gonna copy it because if I like it, maybe I want to keep that. All right. So that stuff's feeling a little better, at least with my VFX. So there we go. Okay. And now we can still, of course, do the combos and all that stuff. So that's working just fine. So what I had done is I copied this, right? So copy component, because I had these values that I liked. Could only exit play mode, it doesn't save them, but now I could just paste component values and then it's good to go. Yeah. And what you saw there was what the system does. All it needs is a collider. Any game object with a collider can become a hitbox, whether it's a hitbox or a hit giver or hit taker. Um, and what it does is just automatically adds a couple scripts to it. which registers it as a hitbox, this physics events, and then gives it a rigid body. In this case, I'm using kinematic rigid bodies because they just work well when they're, because this thing is being driven by animations, not by physics. Um, so yeah, this gets registered, and that's how all the magic happens. So, and to group hitboxes. So there we just made a new hitbox and made it larger. One times you might want to group it. So maybe you want to turn on, like I did that in a couple in the demo too. Like let's go ahead and make a, on our root here, let's just make, I mean we don't have to attach it to the model, so let's not do that. Create an empty child, we'll just call it like AOE sphere, you know, some whatever. Or AOE hitbox. Okay, great. This thing we could just make a sphere because we could use this for like AoE attacks, area of effect if you don't know. So that's like things in a circle around the player. And then I'll just, you know, make the radius pretty large like that. Okay. So now we can go to the controller here, hit givers, hitboxes. We'll add another one. We could just call it, I don't know, AoE for now. We could throw that bad boy in there. Okay, that's going to register it. Now what we need to do is turn it on or off. And let's make a group, um, just so you can kind of see it, what a group does. Okay, group hitbox enabler. So the name of the group. So this is if you want to turn on multiple hitboxes at the same time. So say we wanted to turn on our right hand and also the sphere, right? So let's call this, I don't know, something, because I don't actually have an action here, so we'll just call it group one, because I'm lame like that. All right, so we have group one. Now, let's remove, these are some old ones from the demo. All right, so we have group one, and it asks you, okay, what do you want to add to this group one? Right hand large, or AoE? Well, let's add AoE. Let's also add AoE large. And let's save the group. Okay. So now we have a group called Group O1, which will enable both those hitboxes at the same time. So let's go ahead and do that for our strong sword, or yes, sword strong. So this is called Group O1. Let's remember that. Okay, like before, we go to strong sword, or sword strong, whatever, go to the FBX, because we're using animation events here. Go to the events, click here. Okay, so we don't want to enable hit gable. Enable group boxes, and it was just called Group O1. Yeah. So then we do over here, disable group boxes. Same thing, Group O1. Okay. So now what that is do, it's going to do the entire group there. So let's check that out. Okay, I can just hit F5. There you go. So now obviously here, I mean, there, now you obviously see that the AoE part's happening as well. So they've been combined into one. So groups, right? So we can go this and then this. Groups are a way to combine multiple hitboxes into a single thing. So this is probably good when you have a lot of individual hitboxes, you know, each one for the hand, each one for the leg, and then maybe you have some others for special effects. And you want to then enable them all, or enable a large number of them without having to call enable hitbox, you know, X number of times. You just call this one, and then it just turns it on for you. Okay, so that's how the group. Default hitboxes, we already did that. Hit sender, so this is like your damage events here. So you could register on when this thing damages something. So when it hits a valid target. either, and this works either with collisions or triggers. So whether you got it set up as collisions or triggers, they both should work. In the demo here, I've been using collisions. This is when you want to send the damage, either during the on-enter, on-stay, or on-exit events. And then max per action. So that's the max number of things they can hit per action. Here I got 1,000. You can make it whatever you want. That's kind of just I don't know, a fun little thing to mess around with for performance. If you have lots of actors there, you can limit the amount that were hit. Similar stuff, like on this hit sender, is on, if you switch on over to hit takers, hit receiver. So you could register to when this thing got hit using these Unity events. There's also C# events you could subscribe to, and there's also base classes that you can override. All right, if you have the player effects, you could open up. Now we have hitboxes. Um, so I open up the players, and so they have givers, and then it asks us, all right, for which one of these do you want to add effects, special effects to? You have default, so you could do a default VFX here, and then you could put that in there. I don't know if I have any. Let's see. Hit CFX double flame white. Okay, let's see what that looks like, huh? Then it asks you where you want to instantiate it, either at the collision itself or at the character. If it's a trigger, it's always going to be the character. And then freeze frame. You may or may not want those. I'll show you that in a little bit. Let's see, we hit play. Let's see what this little effects looks like. I guess I gotta kind of hit them, so let's use the F5. There we go. It's a little lame white thing down there. All right, well, not the best. I was just kind of guessing they're flying blind. But it creates the effects. The freeze frame, freeze duration, let's try 5. Now we see, yep, frozen for 5 seconds there. So what this is, it's kind of like one of those where it looks like the guy is kind of frozen for a second, kind of give you like a little bit of style there, a little bit of power or oomph. That's what it's doing. Whenever it hits, um, it'll freeze for that long. So you could do something real long, you could do something short, or you could do nothing at all. It really depends on your game. But that is there. So that one is barely even noticeable. While the 5 seconds was super noticeable, obviously. Okay. And what else can we do here? Well, we can make it, this is just all default stuff. So every collision will make this CFX double flame whatever or another. I should probably look up what would be a good one actually, but okay, little sparkles, great. All right, so we have little sparkles going all over, registering the hits. Okay, and if we do this, the add to the right hand, now we could do that same stuff, except now this stuff only registers with the right hand being hit or hitting something. So this means we could change our effect um, to, I don't know, let's try the double flame, whatever that looks like. There, so now only this run does the flame and the other one does the sparkles. Okay. And you could do that, for all your different hit givers. So you go to AoE and the AoE, I don't know why I have to open that one up like that, whatever. We'll just add a different one for this hit. Let's see what we got under the CFX. Oh, explosion. Let's see what that looks like, huh? So we'll come back over here. Oh, that's nice. So you see, I could just add it during play here, no biggie deal, and it just works. And so those are all specific to the hit takers. Hit givers, we don't, or these are all hit givers, sorry, because this is on the player. So what we could do here, close this out because we actually don't have any, these guys can't hit us. So we're going to need to do that on the actual placeholder. So we go to the enemy placeholder here, and these guys don't actually have NFX, do they? So let's turn them off. I think our reaction characters do. So let's grab that. Yeah, NPC effects character. So if you have the effects add-on, you will also have this script and these prefabs. So open this up and the same stuff, action FX, but now we have a hit takers because this actually has a body L and we're actually attacking it. So if you see, same same basic principle here. We can define particular effects for the body and also if it gets freeze or anything. And actually let's move X since we've only got one. Let's put an effect here. Let's find what should we get hit by. Fireworks trail red, sure, that should be silly. And then play. And there they are. Okay, lovely. So you see now they're all getting that fire. And it works for all of them because they're all using the same data, right? So I don't have to change each individual prefab or anything, just this right here. And then of course you have this, so we can freeze them even longer when they get hit. And they stay frozen for a while. I don't know if you want to emphasize it. Everybody's frozen for 5 seconds. Oh, that seemed to be a little error. Let's see what that was. Value cannot be null. Some key was null. Okay, so yeah, and you could override it obviously, just like we could with the what was it? The hit givers. All right, so it's a little fun with those things. So let's turn that off.